Welcome to Haunt Weekly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Haunt Weekly, a weekly podcast for the haunted attraction and haunted entertainment industry. Whether you're an actor, owner, or just plain aficionado, we aim to be a podcast for you. And this is gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to do this topic for a while now, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And we discussed it fairly significantly in the previous news episode. We mentioned a news article about it. But the hits have just kept coming. So we've decided we're going to sit down and spend an entire episode talking about the lumber crisis going on right now in these United States and also Canada.
Right. Because it's not just us.
No, it's not just us. And we'll get into details about how we got all this and where we got our information from in just a few minutes. But yeah, this is an important one for anyone that's looking at doing any kind of a haunt build, either this year or next year.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And you'll understand why I'm saying that in just a minute. But please, if you have not done so already, take a second. Check us out at hauntweekly.com or Haunt Weekly on Facebook, Haunt Weekly on Twitter. YouTube.com/HauntWeekly is our YouTube channel. All the episodes are available there for you to easily access and go through. They have their own captions there to make them more searchable too. We have transcriptions of the newer episodes on HauntWeekly.com, though, so feel free to roam through those. You can also find us at iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Central, we are right here on our Facebook channel, facebook.com/HauntWeekly, doing these episodes live.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely come join us, participate in the chat, answer the question of the week, be a part of it, maybe get a mention, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So we definitely have a lot to go through this week. But first thing is first, we have our usual spate of housekeeping. And the first item up for bid is the question of the week.
Right. So as of right now, we are at episode 279.
It gives us 21 episodes, basically.
Yeah, 21 episodes until our 300th. What do you guys want to see as a celebration for it?
What do you want us to do?
Yeah.
We got a few ideas we've been sort of kicking around
Yeah,
here.
we do.
We definitely want to have some old friends on.
Right. Maybe as a panel or maybe just individually for a week. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It may not be confined just to the 300th episode.
Right.
We may do the 300th celebration. Might be a 4 to 10 week thing. We don't know.
Yeah.
It could be a thing. But what do you want us to do on the 300th episode?
Yeah, because basically, we saw we were getting close to it. And this is the first time I think we've caught one of the big numbers ahead of time so that we can actually plan.
Yeah, usually
we're really bad at keeping up on that.
We're very short term and near term on planning this podcast, and that's because it's a weekly podcast.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, it's very, very easy to get lost. I don't want to call it the grind, but the weekly process.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we have a system in place where, every Monday we post the episode. Every Wednesday we post the question of the week. Every Thursday we post something from the Haunt Weekly store. Every Friday we announce the next episode. Saturday we write show notes. Sunday we finish show notes. Sunday night we record. Post Monday, repeat ad infinitum. And it's easy to get caught up in that and lose sight of the fact that you've got some milestones coming up. So that's what we're trying to rectify. So if you have any thoughts, let us know, because I'm curious what you think we should be doing for the 300th episode. I definitely think guests are going to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to hell we can get Japes on.
Yeah.
Because he's always welcome on the show. But definitely want to see him. Definitely want to see some of the other guests we've had. Chris Gay, a few of the others that we've had over the past few weeks. Brooke, yeah. I'm sitting there going through guests in my head trying to remember everyone's name, and I'm just totally spacing out on names, even though I know these people and hang out with them on Facebook and stuff. It's like, wow. Anyway, moving on. We will definitely be doing something big for the 300th episode. We do also have an update from the Haunt Weekly store at hauntweeklystore.com. You can also find a link at hauntweekly.com. First thing is first, new item alert. New item alert.
Yes.
The chainsaws are overrated shirts are now available. We promised them to you last week. Crystal kept me honest. and made sure I got that up in time. It is available on the store right now, HauntWeeklyStore.com. Maybe don't wear them around your chainsaw crew. They might not take too kindly to it, but it's a fun. I think it's a fun little shirt. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Of the designs you put together. You threw together a whole bunch of designs, some of which are definitely going to become shirts. Some of them definitely will not become shirts.
No.
But that was one of my favorites of that batch, and we just never got around to actually putting it on a shirt. And then our store got deleted.
Yeah. So now it's there though.
Now it's there. Now it's all back. So yes, go check out the Chainsaws Are Overrated store. And if you choose to buy one between now and Thursday the 8th, we're recording this on it's Easter Sunday, so the 4th. Over the next, damn near a week, use the code LUMBER, LUMBER, to get 20% off. Just all caps, LUMBER, LUMBER. Definitely check out the store. And that coupon code is not just good on the shirt, it's good on anything in the store. So it's good on your entire order. So feel free to save some money. All right, that actually brings us to the topic
Right.
du jour this week. And let's be honest, we've all seen the jokes. The meme of, oh, darling, take me somewhere expensive. The next panel is them dining at the wood section in Home Depot.
Right.
We've seen those. You've seen the memes. You've seen the jokes. And if you've been to a wood store or a store that carries wood of any stripe, you've probably ouched at the prices. It is absolutely insane, and it has been insane for quite some time. Lumber prices are completely bananas. Depending upon the exact source, they are either up 171% or up 188% since the beginning of the pandemic. That is nearly a 3 times increase in lumber prices for those that maybe aren't the best in math. The current price, and this is according to the actual Lumber Builders Lumber Association, is $1,032 per 1,000 linear board feet, which is up from just 381 pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
That's insane.
It's completely insane. There's there are reasons for it, and that's what we're going to go into. It actually just hit a high of $1,044 per 1,000 linear board feet just a few weeks ago at the end of March. This is like the brand spanking new numbers. It dropped $9. Yeah, crisis over. No, God, no. God, no, the crisis is not over. According to the National Association of Home Builders, it is adding, no shit, $24,000 to the price of the average new home.
Yeah.
Just in lumber.
Right.
Not talking your other materials, not your pipes, not your faucets, not your electrics, not that stuff, not your HVAC, none of that stuff, and not costing the labor to put all that shit in.
No.
So $24,000 alone in lumber costs is the average new home cost. That is pants on head. That is.
It is. It's absolutely insane.
And yeah, we're getting these numbers, by the way, and I want to be very, very clear about this. I've been researching this pretty intensely, and I've been trying to get primary sources that actually might have a clue as to what's going on. I didn't talk to Dave at Home Depot like some people did, or Mark at the lumber yard. I went to associations such as the National Association for Home Builders, the Board of Governors at the Federal Reserve is a pretty good source. And, I don't know, the National Lumber Associations, the various ones of those, the trade groups representing the lumber industry, try to understand what is happening here. So, yeah, I think we finally have a handle on what is going on. And, like I said, we're going to break it all down for you pretty succinctly, but just know that this clearly does hurt haunts. The impact this is having on haunts is very, very real, especially right now as we are in kind of peak haunt build season.
Yeah, and, the question that we asked, not last week, but the week before, that we stole from Haunter's Toolbox about, are you changing your builds? A lot of people answered yes, that they either are or they're trying to find resources like thrown away lumber and things like that they can repurpose.
Pallet wood or scrap wood.
Exactly.
And some are just not doing projects.
Yeah.
postponing, delaying, or just shrinking the size of projects. And yeah, it's crazy for many haunts, especially if you do all the work yourself or you're a volunteer like a charity haunt.
Right.
Material costs are often the only cost you face in these types of projects. So if, a project that would have cost, $1,000, we'll say, just to give a nice round number, pre-pandemic, well, now it's going to cost $3,000 pretty much.
Yeah.
And if you're a charity haunt operating on a razor-thin margin and trying to return as great of a value as you can to your charity, do you take on that project knowing you're taking $2,000 of extra risk?
Right. When, as we've talked about before, changing lighting and paint will make it feel like a different haunt.
Yeah. Do you take that on? I don't have answers here, and we're going to talk about this. But yeah, haunts are having to spend way, way more on builds. And like you said, when we put the question out there, a lot of haunts were either delaying or changing their projects that they were tackling. Some are plunging forward and just spending oodles of money on this.
Yeah.
And Godspeed to those that can afford it. A lot cannot, though. Quite frankly, and one of the things I've heard, not necessarily, I did not find confirmation on this. This is not something from reliable sources, just something from the grapevine. But a lot of charity haunts are finding that they used to get charitable donations of wood,
right,
regularly. That's one of the ways they would cut costs. That seems to not be as common. And that is just wild and unfortunate at the same time. And basically, it impacted us. We had an idea. We were going to be closed for COVID. We weren't going to have the walkthrough haunt.
Right.
We had a really neat yard display idea we wanted to do, and we mapped this out. We catted it. We knew exactly what wood we needed, how much we needed of it, and we had a fair, what we thought was a fairly reasonable budget for this project.
Yeah. Exactly.
We'd set aside a pretty good chunk of change for us. In fact, we'd set aside what would have been pretty much our haunting budget to do this. And it wouldn't have even put a dent in the lumber we needed, especially since we needed ground contact. So we ended up having to completely change our yard display, and it was still cool.
It was still cool, and I think in the long run it worked out better.
Yeah.
Because we had to be able to take it down really quick for, a late season hurricane.
Yeah. Mother Nature, you're a bastard.
Yeah.
But yeah, we couldn't do our yard display the way we wanted to last year. And it wound up working out quite well. But still, that was our sticker shock on lumber prices. We walked into Home Depot. Okay, we need, I think we said like 40 2x4s and 10 panels, We had a list of things we needed. And a pretty decent, what should have been a pretty reasonable budget for it.
Yeah.
And we get there, we were completely unaware of this problem, and it was just like, oh, man.
Yeah, and if you're in the chat, I'm dropping a link to where we got some of these statistics from, because there's some questions coming in that I don't have the answers for.
Yeah.
But I want to, make sure that we get it out there. And we'll tell the people where we got our information from, too, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, you're dropping the link to the Fortune article, which actually cites all those home builders associations and so forth.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah. So here's the thing. We wanted to know, we wanted to do the journalism thing. The who, what, when, where, why, and how of this lumber price crisis. So here's the questions we're going to try to answer over the next, 30 to 40 minutes. What is happening? Why is it happening? Who is at fault for it, if anyone? When will it get better? How can you move forward projects now? And where? Well, we all know the where. The where is the United States and Canada. I mean,
yeah. You've already mentioned that.
The where's already answered. So we really only have, those 5 questions we're going to be taking a look at. So we're going to look at them one at a time. What is happening?
Well, prices of lumber are skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Mission solved, right?
Exactly.
Like we said earlier, it hit $1,042 per 1,000 linear feet, which is up from the high 300s pre-pandemic.
No.
So you're looking at damn near a 3x increase. This is across all regions in the United States, and it also is impacting Canada. Though Canada seems to be kind of wonkier with how they're being impacted by it, they are feeling a similar crunch themselves. Basically, this is a crunch that's hitting all like levels of the sale process.
Right.
It's impacting how much the lumber mills are selling to the wholesalers, how much the wholesalers are getting it and able to sell it to the retail side, and how much we, the customers, can buy at retail.
Right. And the retail prices, of course, are going to be the worst prices because we're at the bottom of that list.
Yeah. And every tier you go down, it gets worse because you have less negotiating ability.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's something that we'll be talking about in the end, the kind of things you can work to minimize it. But yeah, it's across all levels of the industry, and the retail prices are by far the worst. And it's impacting all lumber. It's kind of crazy to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
All lumber, it includes stud wood and 2x4s and things like that. Plywood, OSB are also sky high. Fence board is rocketing. It's all lumber. It's pretty much all lumber, all cuts. Nothing has been spared from this.
Right. Yeah.
If it is used in construction, as pretty much all lumber is,
Yes.
it is sky high right now, and it's almost unheard of in this industry. We have seen localized shortages. Like here in Louisiana, every year after there's a hurricane, and it doesn't even have to necessarily hit New Orleans. If it hits, like Mississippi or right at the Texas-Louisiana border or something, we'll see localized shortages of plywood and localized price hikes.
Mm-hmm.
But you won't see as much of 2x4s and studs. And even if you do, those prices are hyper-local to the Gulf Coast. You go, just a little bit north, you go out of the path of the hurricane, go inland, you can get closer to normal prices. And that makes sense. People are buying insane amounts of... are buying absolutely insane amounts of plywood to repair homes, cover windows, do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it makes perfect sense that there would be a plywood/OSB shortage at that time.
Right.
And it's also a very short-lived shortage too. Like we've seen in the past, we've been hit by such shortages in July, but if we come back in late August or early September, usually prices are back down. The market has stabilized again.
Yeah.
That has not happened with this.
No, it's continued to increase because last year when we saw prices around this time,
It was 2x, basically.
yeah, it was 2 times the cost. And we're like, well, we just had some storms and the prices will drop in the next year.
Yeah, we blamed it on the hurricanes.
Yeah.
We didn't realize at that point it was a national issue.
Right.
It very much is, and very much has always been one.
Yeah.
All right. So, why is this happening? What is going on? And this is, I think, is kind of the meat of this episode here in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, to be 100% clear, we're trying to present data from national sources, trade groups, government agencies, etc., to try to understand this and get a clear, that 10,000-foot picture, if you will,
Yes.
of what's going on. Here's the thing that surprised the hell out of me as I started digging into this. It is not a production issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah, and it made sense. Of course, prices are high. COVID closed the sawmills.
Yeah.
Can't mill wood. The wood that is able to come out of the wood that's already in storage becomes more valuable. Problem solved. It's a supply side issue.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No, it isn't.
Go ahead.
In fact, right now, the lumber output is higher than it's been since 2007. That's 14 years ago.
Yeah, and that was right at basically 2005, 2006, 2007. Lumber output was pants on head. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Because we were in the middle of that completely unsustainable housing bubble that went poop in 2008.
Right.
And when it went poop in 2008, output went meow,
Yeah.
straight down. Let the bodies hit the floor.
Yes.
On that one.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah, and it's absolutely crazy because when the output dropped, it then hit a bottom like in 2008, 2009, and has since then been steadily rising.
mm-hmm.
Now, you will note at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a drop of output.
Right. Which would have been expected.
It makes sense. There was about a 15% drop-ish, give or take, in the amount of output sawmills in North America were putting out. And that makes sense. You expect that. There was a shock. Some sawmills stopped. They maybe cut back on production, not expecting wood to be as in demand.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, because they didn't expect people to take on projects, you
Yeah.
know, because they weren't able to work
Yeah.
because of
So-
the pandemic.
The theory was that lumber prices, lumber output dropped briefly, but it rebounded very fast. We're only talking about a period of a couple of months here, realistically. Right there at the beginning of March, April, maybe into May. Output bounced right back to where it was, and then has continued to go up ever since. And so we've had about a year and a half or so of not only normal lumber output, but higher than normal lumber output.
Right.
And increasingly high output, like still trending upward output. And the problem is that makes it a situation where it's not a matter of simply make more wood.
Right. Because we're doing that.
The industry seems to be doing all it can. And think about it, it makes sense. Prices are high. Of course they're going to put out every fucking board they can.
Yeah.
If they can charge insane amounts of money for it, they're going to put out every sheet of plywood. They're going to put out every 2x4. They can put out every piece of lumber they can. That makes sense. And that is exactly what these mills are doing.
Yeah. And I mean, part of it was, you know, people didn't think about all the DIY projects people were going to take on because they did have time now to do those at home,
Yeah.
you know. So that depleted the inventory that was out there.
Yeah. And so, yeah, what happened is you had a slight drop off in production. It was short lived. At the same time, there was a spike in demand.
Right.
It was a system shock. And so, what that did is, like you said, all of the stock, the inventory, ended up getting snatched up pretty quickly. And the growth in lumber buying was twofold. First, you had a continuously hot building market. For some reason, new home construction is at breakneck paces. It's starting to approach those mid-2000s levels that were so unsustainable, and I don't fucking get it at all.
No, I don't. I don't see how that's the direction the housing market's going right now.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either. I'm admitting I'm not an investor. I'm not someone that's qualified to talk about this part of it. I'm not qualified to talk about any part of it other than the stats I've read.
Yeah.
But that's one part I'm definitely not qualified for, not comfortable. But my God, it does sound crazy that the reason it's growing is because interest rates are silly low right now.
Right.
And then part of that's the Federal Reserve has worked to keep interest rates so low. So right now, mortgage rates are actually quite excellent. And people are snatching up homes and having new houses built. Second is the DIY boom that started the pandemic. People are like, well, poopy sticks. I got to work from home now.
Yeah.
I'm going to renovate that home office finally and do some dang dong work on it, you know? And they went out and I don't know why.
I don't know either.
My tech worker from home is the most redneck accent I could give them.
Yeah.
I don't know either, okay? Don't ask me the why I do the things I do. It's never good.
I have learned not to.
But yeah, so they were going out and buying wood in large numbers to do those DIY projects. And it could also be they were renovating the she shed, he shed, or whatever. Finally putting in that man cave, and whatever else. Or trying to turn in what we had considered at one point was turning the garage into a more livable space, trying to actually make it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'd had talked about it a few times, but decided against it. But what happened is production dropped, that demand rose, the inventories, that cushioning, thinned out very quickly. And even though demand ramped back up very fast, it has not been able to keep up with the demand. I mean, even though production ramped up very fast, it has not been able to keep up with demand and not able to replenish those inventories.
Right. Because, I mean, this started back at the beginning of the pandemic, and then we had, you know, horrible storms, and we had both of the hurricane kind and the winter weather kind.
Yeah. Yeah, the Gulf Coast, I think, got hit by something like 6 different hurricanes.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy. I know we were in the cone of indecision more times than I can think.
Yeah. It was a lot.
It was crazy. We were in the cone of uncertainty a lot of times. So there was all these hurricanes. that hit. That did a dent in it. And then there was the winter storms in Texas, and they also were other states were impacted too. I know.
Yeah.
Even though Texas definitely got the brunt of it because of the widespread power outages, which led to plumbing failures.
Right.
Which means now lots of walls and drywall needs to be replaced and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, I know that my parents in Upper Louisiana did not fare much better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Luckily, they didn't have to do any rebuilding of anything.
Right.
That I'm aware of. They didn't need to go to Home Depot and buy some wood.
No. My brother's place needed some work, but that was it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you had all these storms. That didn't help matters.
Mm-mm.
You had thin inventory to begin with. Demand just keeps rising. And then you get hit with all these storms. It's rough.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that did not help was tariffs. During the Trump administration, tariffs were placed on lumber coming from Canada and China. Now, primarily Canada is where we import our lumber from. We don't actually import that much lumber from China. In fact, we actually export a lot of lumber to China. But the lumber from Canada was tariffed at 20%, which is a pretty significant increase. Now, the dispute goes all the way back to something in the 1980s.
Yeah.
I don't ask me about international trade disputes. This ain't my bag.
No.
But it's been going on for a while. The WTO's involved. It's some ugly shit. It way predates the Trump administration. It probably predates anyone watching this podcast, if we're being honest. So yeah. And Trump held fast by those tariffs, though, even as prices started to trickle up at the beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
Now, would it have helped if he had slashed it or gotten rid of it? I don't think so. And the reason is because Canada's kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
They're not as bad as we are. They did not have the production drop-off that we had. Their mills largely stayed open, regardless of COVID, and had maintained output. But they have the same demand forces by and large.
Mm-hmm.
And so their prices aren't faring any much significantly better. So would importing wood from Canada have helped? Maybe. I don't know. It sure as hell didn't help that it was there, but I don't know how much it actually hurt.
Right.
And they cut the tariff to 9% in 2020, but that was just too little too late.
Because it was November 2020.
Yeah, November 2020, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really late in the year. That's well after the trend had started and you were able to see it.
Yeah, and and that's after haunt season 2020, and it's well after the home building season 2020, which is usually spring and summer when most homes new construction takes place. Because you got the most favorable weather. So yeah, basically there was just no way to import affordable lumber to refill inventory. Unclear if that would have even been possible without the tariffs, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's all about demand. This is a demand issue at the end of the day. The housing market did not stall because of the pandemic. I don't know how.
No.
I don't know why. I figured out, we're going to talk about the silicon shortage in a second.
Yeah.
I know how that one happened.
Right.
That makes perfect fucking sense to me. But the housing market, nope, just still rocketing to the moon. The DIY market boom, the hurricanes, the big freeze.
Yeah.
Just hit after hit after hit that increased demand, even with production ramped up to the nines.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. And even with production right now, currently at a record, like I said, 14-year record clip.
Mm-hmm.
It's not putting a dent in it. We can't simply outproduce this problem.
No.
We're going to have to wait for demand to come down, and that's going to take time.
It is. And I suspect with people bidding higher on the then it's going to take, even more time for the bids to start going down at the people at the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
So
now, an interesting comparison that I found is the silicon shortage. If you are someone that wants to buy a graphics card, if you want to buy a graphic card, you want to buy something like that, you're going to be very frustrated. Especially if you want something like a nice mid-tier graphic card, you're either going to have to pay a scalp or an exorbitant fee or just go without. I've been kind of eyeing an upgraded graphics card for some time.
Yeah.
And I've not been able to even find one. I've got the money set aside. I'm ready to do it, but it's not been available. And what happened with the silicon shortage is their production slowed at the beginning of the pandemic. Providers, basically the people that buy the chipsets, anticipated a slowdown. They anticipated, like everyone else did, the economy would take a downward turn, and they're putting these orders in way in advance.
Right.
They anticipated a downturn. They put in for fewer chips to be made, which was understandable for that they did that, but the slowdown did not come. All those people were working from home. Oh, maybe I should invest in making my gaming rig better. I'm spending all this time at home. Maybe I should pick up those PC games I haven't been able to touch in years.
No.
They're going out and they're buying new computers and buying graphics cards. And that eats it up. And then you've got the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency boom, which of course is eating up all the graphics cards because that's what they use to mine those things. So between those forces, demand went way up and they just weren't in a position. Inventories are now low. Manufacturing has ramped back up, but it can't replenish or keep up with the demand.
It's much like the wood in that regard. You know, they've ramped it up, but they're still not able to keep up or even catch up to what the demand is.
They're not catching up, let alone replenishing that cushioning. And like I said, we're looking at all this is coming from a national level. What you see individually on the ground where you are, we're actually looking at a North American level,
right?
Technically, what you see on the ground in your area may vary. I mean, and that's just truth.
Yeah,
it's the difference between, we're talking about the climate of lumber, not the weather of lumber. You know?
Yeah.
That difference there. So, who the hell do we blame for this? Not really anyone.
No.
I mean, the tariffs didn't help, but they didn't really hurt. You can't really fault the lumber mills for dropping production at the start of the pandemic, between fear of COVID and mills being a potential place to transmit it, and also anticipating a drop-off in demand.
Right.
I mean,
they couldn't have predicted, hey, I've got extra time, I'm going to go buy wood and do something with it.
Or that the goddamn housing boom wouldn't even slow down.
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't. I mean, I admittedly do not grok things financially.
No, and I mean, that's one of the things, like, I totally expected housing prices to drop in the past year. And I watch realty as a hobby.
Yeah, you have a weird hobby there.
I do. Just every once in a while I'll go and check out what prices are. And they haven't moved. In fact, some of them have gone up.
Yeah, and that's for established property. That's for already built.
Exactly.
And then you have on the other side of the coin the new properties being built. And it's just going crazy pants.
Well, they're having to increase the prices of it because the lumber's more expensive.
But people are still buying it and snatching it up. And it's just, really?
Yeah.
What the hell, man?
Yeah.
What the mayonnaise? What the hell, man?
Yeah.
It's wild. And yeah, you've had that brief drop in supply met with a spike in demand, and we just haven't recovered from the system shock, and we can't until demand eases off enough to let production do some catch up.
No.
That's really that simple.
Exactly.
So when will it be over? Not good news.
No.
Every estimate I have seen has said you're looking at least another year.
Yeah.
Admittedly, these are, of course, the funny thing about this is I'm quoting estimates now from experts and, like I said, once again, trade organizations. But those same experts and predictions back in like fucking July when the prices first shot up, it'll be over by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I don't know how legit.
Yeah, I think they were the ones that made the original predictions about, it's slowing down and nobody wanting stuff for a little while.
Yeah, I don't think it's problematic.
Yeah.
It is problematic. And so these are predictions, but most forecasts, like I said, they thought it would drop by Q1 2021. That didn't happen. The Canadian Home Builders Association says prices will remain quote-unquote elevated. You gotta love that.
Yeah.
Not batshit crazy, not holy fuck, Ted, what's going on?
Right.
No, just elevated for a couple of years, quote-unquote. And that's just it. Until demand drops, we're not going to see the prices drop because lumber yards and other outlets know that they can get better prices for that wood. There are people that will definitely pay XYZ for this lumber, and why would they sell it to anyone else for less?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, expect similar prices for the 2022 season and maybe even the 2023 season.
Yeah.
This seems to be not a permanent price. I wouldn't call it permanent. No one seems to think
hope
it'll
not.
be forever, but everyone seems to think this is fairly long haul. So there is a push. Multiple groups are pushing President Biden to intervene, but it's kind of unclear what he can do.
Yeah.
What any president can do.
Do something. What do you want me to do? I don't know. I don't know what would fix it.
I don't know. I mean, he theoretically could use powers to order more production, but like we just discussed, production's already the highest it's been in 14 years.
Right. And building new lumber mills
takes time.
Would take years.
Yeah, or even bringing previously closed ones back online take considerable amounts of time.
Exactly.
I mean, lumber,
so that doesn't fix it.
Lumber is an infrastructure thing where all the pieces in it, require some pretty big infrastructure. If you think about it, the whole system requires big infrastructure. It's not something you can switch on and off. Mm-hmm. It's not like making spacely sprockets or something where you can just have a guy pushing a button in a room and bitching about having to work a 2-day week.
Yeah,
asshole. Fuck George Jetson. Yeah. So yeah, without new lumber mills, there's not much that can be done on the supply side. So what can we do now? This is a good question. One piece of advice that was said was delay projects if possible. The 2021 season may not be the time to do major haunt builds.
Right.
Just may not be.
Well, and I mean, if you look at prices, it may not be in your budget. Yeah. And if it's not, just delay.
Don't worry about it. Just delay.
There are other ways to change.
It's unclear when prices will return to normal, quote unquote normal. Mm-hmm. Still, it's kind of likely that the prices, because the prices have had a gradual increase. Like you noted, the trend was definitely visible by, September, October last year. We noticed it. And now it's been continuing. It's likely that this will not be a situation where prices tank. Mm-mm. It's going to be a come down. And so it may be that prices won't be back to normal in 2022, but will have eased off some.
Yeah.
The second suggestion is to reduce waste. This is what actual builders are doing. Mm-hmm. They're going through and making design changes and making construction method changes to greatly reduce waste. Basically, design projects with minimal waste. If you were someone that wants to do the Leonard Pickle 10-foot walls or 12-foot walls, I wouldn't recommend it. That's a tough thing to do without a lot of waste.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're wasting part of each board.
Yeah.
So the 8-foot by 4-foot doesn't produce waste.
Yeah, it's
not
difficult.
A lot.
You can do it with minimal waste, but it's much more difficult than just building regular panels. Mm-hmm. So, focus on making your construction style more, less wasteful. We're not particularly wasteful with wood.
No, we tend to reuse it a lot and save it also.
Yeah.
We don't just throw wood away unless it's completely rotted for some reason.
With probably about $20,000 of scrap wood at current prices.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a box, but I'm joking and exaggerating the price. But we keep a box of scrap wood that we have, and we use it whenever possible. So focus on reducing waste. Keep track of your scrap wood. It's a good thing to do. Mm-hmm. Try or consider alternative materials. I actually looked this up at our Home Depot right now, our Home Depot and our Lowe's right now. Metal studs are cheaper than wood ones.
Which is impressive.
I can get a 10-foot metal stud for $6 and change.
That gives me too many ideas.
I know. Well, the thing about metal studs, though, is you need the track to put them in. You don't just simply do what you do with lumber and work with it directly. There's a bit more to it. Go ahead.
I bet, though, that your fire marshal would love you more for metal studs.
Oh, yeah. As crazy as it sounds, though, yeah, the metal studs themselves are actually cheaper than wood lumber at our local Lowe's.
Yeah.
Also, drywall is not as impacted as plywood and OSB. Right now, you can get drywall sheets for about $14, which is about a third of the price of 7/16 OSB.
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't recommend using drywall on impact walls.
No.
Or possible impact walls, but in other places, as background, they would be fine.
The problems with drywall in a haunt are legion. It's heavier, so it's less convenient to work with, and that's the reason we've never really messed with it.
Also, we have a moisture issue out here.
It wicks moisture, and if you don't have a fully enclosed, climate-controlled space, which we do not,
right,
it won't work. And it also, of course, gets holes way too easy.
Yeah, but it is fire retardant and safe.
It does meet all the fire code standards out of the box.
Right.
So that's good. But if drywall can work in your situation, give it a look.
Yeah.
Another piece of advice is purchase directly from wholesalers. As we discussed, every step you go down that ladder,
right.
It gets worse because everyone is negotiating and bidding on a replenished stock of wood. And so if you can get fewer people bidding, paying fewer bid markups there, you can probably come out ahead. If your project is large enough, just buy straight from a lumber yard or a wholesaler. It can save you a lot of money, and especially if you're flexible materials, they might tell you, oh yeah, all those 2x4s there, those are already been promised to another gig, but we've got, we got these 2x6s.
Yeah.
That we can give you much cheaper than normal than we would otherwise. We got to get off the lot. If you're flexible with the materials, you might be able to get a better deal.
Yeah.
So something to think about there. And the other option is to just eat it. Just eat the cost and deal with it. Not really an option for us.
No. Or a lot of small haunts.
Not a lot of option for a lot of home haunts, not a lot of options for small haunts, charity haunts, and even some big ones if what they're wanting to do is a major, major project. They might be skipping on that new facade, that new 3-story facade thing they were planning on building. They might be skipping on that. So yeah, just eat the cost if you can. So, to quickly recap, lumber prices are not the result of an ongoing supply issue. It's not that there's countless lumber mills sitting, not working and not putting out the wood that we need. It's not that. Demand is super high and the supply just isn't keeping up. And it certainly isn't keeping up and replenishing what happened to that system shock at the beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
There's no end in sight.
No.
As long as interest rates remain this low, as long as the housing market remains this hot, it's just gonna keep going, keep being a problem. So yeah, focusing on finding alternatives, reducing waste, buying from wholesalers, the things you can control is what to focus on. Yeah, but I'm personally expecting this to be an issue for us when we do projects next year.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we're going to handle it.
No, but we'll have a better idea next year.
Yeah.
Because they could be right and they could start to, balance out and go back down. But I'm not really expecting it to. Yeah,
and the housing boom really, according to the National Home Builders Association and others, that's really the crux of what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Is this housing, new construction boom, which did not slow for the pandemic, some reason, some way, it did not slow. I don't understand that at all. Is eating up the supply, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that impacts, like I said, all kinds of lumber. See in the chat, they're talking about fence post.
Yeah.
Just as impacted. It's used in new construction all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, everything's going to be impacted if it's used in construction, and that's kind of what lumber is.
It is, yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, definitely lots of great thoughts. We need to revisit the question of the week, though, before we take off. Do we have any great suggestions for what to do for our 300th episode?
So Greg Rothberg threw in quite a few suggestions, and I think we should just put him in charge of it.
Greg, you got a job.
Yeah. He said maybe a Q&A with the two of us.
Okay.
A walkthrough of the home haunt, which we did at one point.
We did it at the very beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
And
but
unfortunately, because we were closed in 2020, nothing has changed in it.
exactly.
You can actually go back. It's still on the Facebook page and watch it. And
Yeah.
nothing's really changed, unfortunately, because now it looks a little. Now we got the studio in this room.
Right.
That's different.
Yeah, but that's not,
Not haunt related.
that's not haunt related. That's yeah. So but we could like re-promote it or
Yeah,
something.
we could or do another one. And
Have Ellie join us out here for the 300th. Those were all from Greg. Karen Page said,
Ellen had. Wait a minute. Ellie
Sorry.
has joined us.
but not on the live.
Not on the live. That's true. She
Yeah.
was on the Aphantasia and Haunting one we did.
Right.
She talking about because she has aphantasia and provides some great insight into how she views haunted houses differently than someone without aphantasia. It was a really very interesting episode, and it's given me a lot to think about. Aphantasia, for those that don't know, is a condition where you don't see pictures in your head.
Yeah, it's just a different way of thinking.
It's a very different way of thinking, but it changes how your perception of your surroundings operates,
Right.
and how haunts attempt to mess with that perception go.
Yeah, exactly. And Christian Risto said, you would have some favorite guest on and us in character.
Alright.
So that would be fun.
That'd be interesting.
We may even be able to do something like a costume ball for fans and things to join us.
I would not be able to wear my mask though,
Yeah.
because it would not be intelligible or clear enough through it.
Yeah, I really need to take that cheap mask you got from Wish
Wish.
and see if I can make a sock mask out of it.
Yeah, the mask
That'd be
I
more
use,
comfortable
I love
for you.
it. It's very comfortable, but yeah, it would not be good for the audio.
Yeah, and Karen Page put a lot of comments about lumber into the chat.
Yeah,
So you go and check those out on
Yeah.
our Haunt Weekly on Facebook.
yeah, and I noticed Matt Berg said there's piles of lumber in lumber yards right now. I don't doubt that, but that
No.
lumber may already be promised to someone else.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I mean, and like I said, this is a national climate, not a local thing. I don't doubt we're seeing piles of lumber, but yeah, this is a macro problem, not a micro one.
Yeah.
So yeah, all in all, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. It's been great, and I know we're wrapping up a few minutes early, but honestly, it's been a week, so I'm happy to
Yeah.
have a good tight episode.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, everyone, thank you very much for joining us for the past 50 minutes or so. It's been really, really great having you, and please definitely take a moment, check us out at hauntweekly.com. We're Haunt Weekly on Twitter, Haunt Weekly on Facebook, youtube.com/hauntweekly is our YouTube channel. All the previous episodes, every single one is there. You can go make fun of all the stupid things we've said over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
It's real easy. Go there to do that. You can also catch us Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever podcasts are sold. And finally, definitely come join us live every Friday at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, facebook.com/hauntweeklies. We go live and chat with you all directly and participate here and get in the episode. We appreciate all of our chatters.
Yes, we do.
So yeah,
And-
just to recap, once again, in the Haunt Weekly store, hauntweeklystore.com, the Chainsaws Are Overrated shirt is now available. Go check it out. Chainsaws are overrated on the front, Haunt Weekly logo on the back. Don't wear it around your chainsaw crew. Go pick one up. Use the coupon code LUMBER, LUMBER, for 20% off between now and the 8th. Until next time, I'm Jonathan,
I'm Crystal.
and we will see you all next week, where it is episode 280. That is divisible by 4. That means it is time to do
The news.
And we actually have a lot of news lined up.
We do. That
Good.
means that I should start on the notes early.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of news lined up, so this is going to be an exciting one. We will see you all then.